Another pro-inflammatory, bad-acting transcription factor is AP1. And AP1, remember, that was the one that when we got sunlight on our skin, the ultraviolet radiation created free radicals. It made collagen-digesting enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases. NF-kappa B and AP1 are also bad actors because they can drive the progression of cancer. And it works in several ways, and this is not simplistic, but a couple of examples. NF-kappa B, when it's activated, produces these pro-inflammatory cytokines that will actually drive the cancer. And NF-kappa B turns off a mechanism that we have in our bodies to kill cells that are bad. And that mechanism is called apoptosis. And it's a form of cell suicide. And it saves us every day because cells become apoptotic if they're going to malfunction and become cancer. NF-kappa B turns off apoptosis in precancerous cells in cancer. AP1 also drives cancer through other inflammatory mechanisms. So when I talked initially about 10 years ago and using antioxidants like alpha-lipoic acid, which turned off NF-kappa B, and using vitamin C and others that could actually affect these transcription factors, that was just the beginning of the story. Now we're going to talk about the good guy transcription factors, and it's called NRF2. And NRF2 is the same thing. It's a sensor. And it sits in the cell, and it's looking around. And if it senses oxidative stress, it gets activated and goes to the nucleus and attaches to something called the antioxidant response element of the gene. And this gene starts making 15 to 20 cell-protective protein enzymes that will go on for hours and days of activity. So think about this. We now have a system that doesn't rely on an antioxidant canceling out a free radical and depleting the endogenous antioxidant pool. We have our cells become manufacturing plants for cytoprotective chemicals. And NRF2 is the guy. Nutrigenomics is the study of how these foods will interact with these transcription factors and turn off or turn on various events. And so what I'll be talking about today as we go through these old new superfoods, they're powerful chemopreventive agents. They prevent cancer. Powerful. Loads of data right now. They're also powerful anti-inflammatories because they affect gene expression. And they don't affect it just by turning off the bad guys. They turn on the good guys at the same time. Yet, we thought they were just antioxidants. But they're more than just antioxidants because in this molecule, the so-called phytonutrients, polyphenols, we've called them catechins, whatever we want to call them, there is a portion of the molecule called a domain by chemists that is pro-oxidant. It's acts like a free radical, but it's not. It's milder. And what it does is this pro-oxidant domain, the antioxidant domain is working, knocking out free radicals, but the pro-oxidant domain goes to the sensors, NF-kappa B, AP1, NRF2, and attaches to the sensor and locks on. And it locks on, it's called a covalent attachment. And that activates or inactivates these receptors. Now think how brilliant nature is. I love it. 100 million years of R&D. If my company could have that, I would have been all set. In the 100 million years of R&D, we developed these molecules that have antioxidant capability and pro-oxidant that can now manipulate transcription factors that will turn on the protective ones, NRF2, and turn off the deleterious ones like NF-kappa B and AP1. And so now we're well beyond antioxidants. And we can even go a step further than that. Scientists are now looking at a study of epigenetics, and that means above the genes. And they found, this is preliminary now and a lot more work has to be done, that certain things that we eat can form molecules that will attach to genes and just silence them. And these other molecules will go to the protein surrounding the DNA called histones and attach to that and affect gene expression. And DNA is, they call it methylation, and then the histones is called acetylation. That's not important. The important thing is we now know that even if you took identical twins who have absolutely the same genetics, over a lifetime, if you look at the genes, they're going this way because of epigenetics. They're changing by what they're doing, what they're drinking, what they're eating, what their lifestyle is, changing their genes. No, they're no longer identical twins. And the real interesting part about epigenetics and this methylation and acetylation is that those characteristics that are developed from good habits like eating correctly and moderate exercise can be passed on to the next generation. So what your grandma ate can affect you today. And you can affect your grandchildren by just taking care of yourself today. It's phenomenal. It's probably the most exciting aspect of medicine as far as I'm concerned today. And nutrigenomics is part of that study. And so we can go from these sensitive molecules that will just act temporarily to epigenetics that can last a lifetime and then be passed on to the next generation. I told you today we're going to look at the old new superfoods. Has anybody here eaten watercress? Some have. It's always been a garnish on the plate, and I always wondered, like, what is it? And I'm studying watercress and find that it is an incredible plant. I just want to grab a little piece here as I talk. And this is watercress. And this has been used throughout the centuries by civilizations for many reasons, for therapeutic reasons. Now, Hippocrates, that famous Greek physician, father of medicine, actually would locate his hospital next to a cold running stream because that's where these things grow. Because they were therapeutic for his patients, he would give the stems as therapy. Greek soldiers, before they go into battle, would eat watercress for stamina. And I think you've all seen that movie with the Spartans holding off the Persians. Mm-hmm. Well, the Persians arrived, and they're laughing because they thought these guys were actually wearing camouflage in a desert. But what they're really doing, they're carrying watercress because they would actually chew on it while they're in the battle and would give them energy and stamina. Watercress is amazing because it has phytonutrients and has a lot of antioxidants. And these antioxidants are very powerful to battle the bad guys, free radicals. But in addition to that, it contains a pro-oxidant domain that can affect the transcription factors. So let's just look at just general activity of watercress. First of all, it's a natural diuretic. It means you can get water out of your body. And when I work with different actors and actresses and models, they're obsessed and they end up taking diuretics, which are not very healthy. All they have to do is eat a bowl of watercress. You diurese. It's nutritionally dense, contains more vitamin C than an orange, more calcium than milk, high in iron. There's a number of things. But I want to talk about this pro-oxidant thing called PEITC. It stands for phenylethyl isothiocyanate. And this is a molecule that has a domain that can touch those sensors I talked about. And when it goes into the cell, and it gets into the cell very rapidly after you have a salad. In fact, there was one study where they took 60 patients, 30 smokers, 30 non-smokers, and looked at DNA breakage. Of course, smokers have higher DNA breakage. And when you see DNA breakage, it means you're moving towards cancer. And they gave them a salad of about 3 ounces every night of watercress, a little olive oil and vinegar. And they ate it, and they measured levels of the PEITC. And they found that they got very high levels after eating the salad. But more importantly, after 8 weeks, when they looked at the DNA breakage again, it was completely repaired. And the smokers did better than the non-smokers. They had more damage. And the cells we're talking about are called monocytes, which are just white blood cells. And when they took those cells and they stressed them with a pro-oxidant called hydrogen peroxide, it had greater resistance to oxidative stress. Watercress has the active domain that will go in and it attaches to NF-kappa B and turns it off. And so it will not be able to drive cancer. And if it turns off NF-kappa B, the cancer cells start going into cell suicide called apoptosis. So NF-kappa B, when it's taken away from the tumor actually starts to shrink. This phenylethyl isothiocyanate also has great activity in terms of preventing tumors because it inhibits another messenger called hypoxia-inducible factor. When we have a tumor start, the tumor grows very rapidly, and very rapidly the tumor grows out of a blood supply. And so it's going to become necrotic and die. But the tumor is very smart and releases this chemical called hypoxia-inducible factor, which makes new blood vessels grow. It's called angiogenesis. And doctors and scientists have been looking for anti-angiogenic agents for years. Because if you can turn off the blood supply, we can kill the cancer. And this amazing little piece of watercress can do that. It can improve the appearance of your skin. It acts as a natural detoxifier in the liver. And it tastes really good. It's got a little bite to it. It's very flavorful. You want to add it to your salads. You want to probably do this every day. I had the opportunity to go to a watercress farm in Florida. Remember, this grows in natural cold spring water. It's very sensitive. And this was an incredible operation where they had this water just running, and about 6 inches of water, these little things are growing, ice cold. It's hand-picked, and then it's brought to the processing plant, immediately covered in ice, washed, and then shipped. This happens in a matter of hours, and it's shipped all over the world. So you can get fresh watercress no matter where you are, and it maintains all of the activity. Now, watercress belongs to a family called the brassica family. And brassica includes broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and turnips and all of those. And I'm not a broccoli fan, you know, and I know a lot of people are not. But this has all of that activity without that. But what the other vegetables do contain are something called sulforanes, which are also isothiocyanates that have tremendous anti-cancer ability. So we can now see we're so far beyond antioxidants, knowing about how we can turn on protective transcription factors like NRF2 and turn off NF-kappa B and AP1. Another old new superfood is a spice, actually. It's cinnamon. But cinnamon's amazing because it regulates blood sugar. And the way scientists found this out was they were testing apple pie. And the subjects ate apple pie and they drew their blood. And the scientists did not see the increase in blood sugar that they expected from this apple pie. They found out what was preventing the blood sugar from shooting up was the cinnamon. 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon not only levels blood sugar shortly after the meal, but this effect went on for up to 3 weeks. So if you would like to have control of your blood sugar, control inflammation, control of insulin levels, which make your appetite shoot up, you've got to have cinnamon every day.